I wasn't looking for trouble that day. I just wanted to pick up a small gold bracelet for my daughter's birthday. That's all. A quick stop at Riviera Jewelers, 5 minutes from her school, before heading home. I parked, grabbed my phone, and as I walked in, the sight hit me like a knife in the chest. There he was, my husband Eric, standing in front of a glass case, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. And right beside him, draped over his arm like she owned him, was a woman I didn't recognize. Early 30s, sleek hair, designer coat, the kind of smug grin you only wear when you think you've won. And then I saw it. The box. She had her manicured fingers stretched out as the saleswoman slid a velvet box across the counter. The lid opened, and inside sat the exact diamond ring I had seen in the email receipt on Eric's phone 2 nights ago. At first, I thought maybe, just maybe, he was planning something for me. A vow renewal, a surprise. But deep down, I'd already known. And now here it was, staring back at me, proof of everything I had been too afraid to admit. I froze. My throat burned, my chest tightened, and for a second I couldn't breathe. The saleswoman's cheerful voice cut the silence. It's a beautiful choice. Classic cut, platinum band, truly timeless. The mistress turned her hand under the light, her smile widening. It's perfect. Exactly what I wanted. Her voice was like a blade scraping against my skin. I must have made a sound because Eric turned. His eyes went wide, his mouth opened, but nothing came out. For a moment, he looked like a child caught stealing. "Jennifer," he stammered. The store went quiet. People browsing bracelets and necklaces stopped. The saleswoman looked confused, shifting her gaze between us. And the mistress? She smirked, as if she'd been waiting for this moment. I stepped forward, every muscle in my body shaking, but I wasn't going to crumble. Not in front of her, not in front of strangers. "So," I said, my voice steady but cold, "this is where my inheritance went. My mother's money, on a ring for your mistress." Gasps. Whispers rippled through the store. Eric's face flushed red. "It's not what it looks like." I cut him off, sharp as a whip. "Don't you dare insult my intelligence." I saw the receipt, and now I see her. Right here, wearing what you bought with money that wasn't yours. The mistress crossed her arms, leaning against him. Maybe if you kept him happy, he wouldn't need me. The audacity of it burned through me, and before I could stop myself, my hand flew. The slap cracked across her cheek so loud the entire store flinched. She staggered back, clutching her face, eyes wide with shock. "You think you've won," I hissed. "All you've done is tie yourself to a coward." Eric grabbed my arm, his grip desperate. "Jennifer, please, let's talk about this outside." I yanked my arm free. "Talk? You had every chance to talk. Instead, you planned an engagement with her while lying to me and our daughter, in our home." A man in the corner muttered, "Damn," under his breath. Another shopper pulled out her phone, recording. The room wasn't just quiet anymore. It was alive with judgment. And every eye was on Eric. The mistress tried to regain her composure, smoothing her hair, glaring at me. "You're pathetic," she spat. I smiled, but it wasn't the smile of someone broken. It was the smile of someone finished. "No, I'm free." I turned, walking straight to the door, my heels striking against the polished floor like gunshots. The air outside hit me sharp and cold, but it cleared my head. Behind me, I could hear Eric calling my name, his voice cracking, but I didn't look back. I pushed through the revolving door, stepped into the busy Chicago street, and pulled in a deep breath. The humiliation had burned me alive in there, but in its ashes, something else sparked. Rage. Clean, cold, purposeful rage. I whispered to myself, words only I could hear. "This isn't the end. This is the beginning. He thinks he embarrassed me? He has no idea what's coming." And with that vow, I walked away, leaving the man who destroyed everything standing in a jewelry store, holding nothing but shame. When I first met Eric, I thought I'd won the lottery. He was charming in that polished, confident way that makes everyone around him feel smaller. At 24, I didn't see it as arrogance. I saw it as strength. He made me feel safe, like he had a plan for both of us. Back then, I thought security was everything. I grew up with very little. My mother worked 2 jobs, and when cancer finally took her, all I had left was the small inheritance she scraped together by selling her own jewelry, bonds, and what little savings she'd built. That inheritance wasn't just money. It was her sacrifice, her way of protecting me from the struggles she endured. I swore I would use it wisely. And I did. When Eric and I married, we used that money for the down payment on our house in Lincoln Park. A modest 3-bedroom with a yard big enough for our daughter to run around in. It wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Or at least, I thought it was. For years, I believed we were building something together. I worked part-time as a marketing assistant, picking up freelance projects here and there so I could be home more for our daughter, Lily. Meanwhile, Eric's career in logistics was supposed to carry us forward. Long hours, late nights, endless business trips. He'd always tell me, "This is for us, Jen, for Lily's future." I wanted to believe him, so I did. But if I'm honest, the cracks were always there. The phone glued to his hand, screen turned away whenever I walked in. The unexplained weekend meetings. The way he stopped asking me about my day or listening when I talked about Lily's school plays or the art projects she made. At first, I brushed it off. Every marriage has ups and downs, right? I told myself he was just stressed, just tired. I made excuses, like women do when they don't want to face the truth. My sister Hannah wasn't fooled. "Jennifer, something's off," she warned me over coffee one afternoon. "Men don't work that many late nights without a reason." I rolled my eyes. "He's building something for us." "You don't know him like I do." She leaned back, sighing. "I know men. And I know you. You're carrying this marriage on your back. And he's letting you." I shut her out because it was easier than admitting she was right. The biggest red flag came last year. Eric forgot our 10th wedding anniversary. Not just forgot, he didn't even bother to cover it up. He came home at 11 p.m., reeking of alcohol, mumbling about a client dinner. I sat at the table with the candles burned down to nothing, the dinner cold, Lily asleep upstairs. That night I cried quietly in the bathroom so my daughter wouldn't hear. I should have left then. But I didn't. Because Lily adored him. Because I thought broken homes break children. Because I thought if I just tried harder, loved harder, maybe things would get better. That's the trap, isn't it? We believe we can fix them when all they're doing is tearing us apart. And then came the receipt. It was late. Eric had fallen asleep on the couch, phone in hand. I wasn't snooping. I swear I wasn't. His phone buzzed, and the screen lit up. An email notification. Subject line: "Thank you for your purchase." I tapped it open before I could think. There it was, a diamond engagement ring. $4,000. Ordered under our joint credit card. Delivered to Riviera Jewelers for pickup. I sat there staring, heart racing, convincing myself there had to be another explanation. Maybe he planned something for me. Maybe this was his way of making up for the years of distance. But deep down, my stomach twisted with the truth. The next morning, Lily confirmed it in the most innocent way possible. She was eating cereal, swinging her legs under the table, when she looked up and said, "Mommy, Daddy took me for ice cream yesterday. But there was a lady with him. She wore pretty earrings, and Daddy said not to tell you." I froze, spoon halfway to my mouth. "What lady?" Lily shrugged, too young to understand the weight of her words. She laughed a lot. Daddy held her hand when he thought I wasn't looking. The room spun. I felt sick. Out of the mouths of babes, as they say. Children don't lie about things they don't understand. That was the nail in the coffin. My sister's warnings, the late nights, the forgotten anniversary, all of it lined up into a picture I couldn't deny anymore. He wasn't building a future for us. He was building a future without me, with her. And the worst part? He used my mother's sacrifice, my inheritance, to do it. That's when humiliation turned into something else. Not just heartbreak, not just betrayal, but fury. The kind of fury that changes you. And I knew then that this wasn't just about saving myself. This was about protecting my daughter, honoring my mother's memory, and making sure Eric paid for every lie, every stolen moment, every dollar spent on another woman. Because if he thought he could erase me quietly and move on, he was about to learn just how wrong he was. I woke up the morning after the jewelry store scene with eyes swollen from crying, but a mind sharper than it had been in years. The humiliation still burned, but it had hardened into clarity. I wasn't going to beg, plead, or collapse. I was going to dismantle him piece by piece. The first move was money. Always money. I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, logged into our joint accounts, and started moving everything I legally could into an account in my name only. Years of saving, stretching, putting my freelance earnings aside, all siphoned into safety. I called the bank, flagged suspicious charges, and had the joint credit card frozen. If Eric wanted to play house with his mistress, he'd have to do it broke. By 10 a.m., I was on the phone with a lawyer. Hannah had recommended her friend, a sharp-tongued divorce attorney who didn't waste time with niceties. I laid it out bluntly. He's cheating. He used my inheritance. I want the house. I want custody. And I don't want him walking away clean. She didn't even pause. We'll make sure he doesn't. Start documenting everything. Receipts, bank statements, screenshots, anything that ties his spending to that woman. The more, the better. I felt a flicker of control return as I printed every receipt I had, slid them into a folder, and labeled it in bold, evidence. Next came the house. That afternoon, while Lily played in her room, I went through Eric's closet. Every shirt, every suit, every pair of shoes, stuffed into garbage bags. I piled them neatly by the front door. His home was no longer his. The locks would be changed by the end of the week. As I worked, my hands trembled, but not from grief, from adrenaline. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for Eric's approval or explanations. I was taking the wheel. I called my boss next. I need more hours, I said. Permanently. No more part-time. He hesitated. Are you sure? You've always balanced around your family? My family dynamic has changed, I cut in. I need the work. He agreed. Just like that, another layer of independence was secured. By evening, the house looked different. His things were gone. My folder of evidence sat thick on the table. I'd opened a separate savings account for Lily, setting aside what I could as a shield for her future. The air felt lighter without his belongings scattered across the rooms. That's when the front door opened. Eric walked in, phone in hand, smirk already plastered across his face, until he noticed the bags by the door. He blinked, then looked at me standing in the kitchen, arms crossed. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. I didn't flinch. "Your things, packaged and ready. You don't live here anymore." His jaw tightened. "Jennifer, don't do this. We can fix it. That scene at the store was—" "Don't insult me." My voice was sharp, steel-edged. "You lied. You stole. You humiliated me in front of strangers. And you did it with money that wasn't yours. You don't get to spin this. You don't get to stay." He stepped closer, lowering his voice like he thought intimidation still worked. "You think you can just throw me out? This is my house too." I pointed at the folder on the table. "Not for long. I already spoke to a lawyer. I already froze the accounts. By tomorrow your cards won't work. And every receipt, every charge tied to her, it's all documented. You won't win this." The color drained from his face. That was the first crack. The first moment he realized I wasn't going to crumble like he expected. He tried again, softer this time. "Jen, please, don't do this to Lily." I steadied my voice. "You did this to Lily. You did this the second you brought her into your lies. I'm just making sure she doesn't grow up thinking this is what love looks like." He looked at the bags, at the folder, at me, and for the first time in years, Eric had no words. I grabbed my keys, walked past him, and pulled the door open. You have until tomorrow to pick these up. After that, the locks change. I stepped outside, the cold air biting my skin, but it felt like freedom. Behind me, Eric's silence filled the house. For once, I wasn't the one left speechless. The fallout began faster than I expected. By the next morning, Eric's credit card was declined at a gas station. I knew because he called me from an unknown number, furious, voice tight with panic. "What the hell did you do?" he barked. I kept my tone calm. "I secured what was mine. You'll have to figure out the rest. You can't just cut me off." "I already did." I hung up before he could finish. For once, I wasn't the one scrambling. By noon, Hannah texted me a screenshot from social media. Someone had posted about the scene at the jewelry store. Guy buying a diamond ring for his mistress gets caught by his wife in front of everyone. Wife slapped the girlfriend. Whole store froze. Best Tuesday of my life. It had already racked up hundreds of comments. I didn't have to share my story. The city was doing it for me. Eric's co-workers weren't blind either. One of them, an old acquaintance from a company barbecue, sent me a DM. "I always thought he was shady. Don't let him spin this. People at the office are already talking." The mistress, meanwhile, was discovering the cost of her prize. Later that day, I got an email notification. Eric had tried to transfer funds out of our savings into a personal account. Declined. Minutes later, another attempt, this time on the joint credit card. Blocked. I pictured him sitting there, frantic, while she watched his empire crumble. And then, almost comically, her Instagram posts began to shift. Where once she had boasted about finding happiness and real love, her captions grew defensive, littered with quotes about haters and staying strong. She hadn't tagged Eric directly, but everyone knew who she meant. Comments under her posts told the story. "Girl, this the guy from Riviera Jewelers?" And, "Imagine thinking you're winning when you're just the side piece." The walls were closing in, and I hadn't even left my living room. That evening, Lily and I sat down to dinner, just pasta and garlic bread. But the peace at the table felt new. She was chattering about school when the doorbell rang. I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. Through the window, I saw Eric on the porch. His hair was a mess, his tie loosened, his face pale. He rang again, more insistently this time. "Stay here," I whispered to Lily. I walked to the door but didn't open it. "Go away, Eric." "Jennifer, please." His voice cracked, desperate now. "Just talk to me. Let me explain." I laughed bitterly. "Explain what? That you spent my mother's money on another woman? That you paraded her around our daughter? What's left to explain?" His hand hit the door, a dull thud. "You're making a mistake. You can't just cut me out of my own house." "This isn't your house anymore," I snapped. "And you're not welcome here. If you want to see Lily, you'll do it through court. Until then, stay away." For a moment, there was silence. Then his voice dropped to a whisper, almost pleading. "She's gone, Jen. She left when she realized the money's locked up. Please, I just need to come home." That word, home, set my blood boiling. He thought he could walk back in like nothing happened, like I'd fold the second she abandoned him. "You lost this home the second you betrayed me," I said coldly. "Now leave before I call the police." His footsteps shuffled, slow, reluctant. I waited until I heard his car pull away before I went back to the table. Lily looked up at me with wide eyes. "Was that Daddy?" "Yes," I said, forcing a smile. "But he won't be staying here anymore." She nodded, quietly returning to her pasta. And in that silence I felt the weight of my choices settle. The first blows had landed, but this was only the beginning, because Eric had tasted the consequences, and I wasn't about to let him recover. Not now. Not ever. Eric's mother's birthday dinner was the kind of event no one skipped. His parents reserved the private room of a downtown steakhouse every year, inviting family, close friends, even a few business partners. Normally, I dreaded those nights, smiling through conversations while Eric played the golden sun. But this year was different. I wasn't going to sit quietly. I was going to burn his facade down in front of everyone who still believed he was a respectable husband, father, and son. When I walked in with Lily, chatter quieted. Heads turned, scanning for Eric, who was already seated at the far end of the table. He froze when he saw me, his fork suspended in midair. The mistress wasn't there. I made sure of that. But the absence only made the air tighter. His mother, oblivious, clapped her hands together. "Jennifer, you came. I wasn't sure after—" Her voice trailed, unsure how to finish. I smiled politely, pulling out a chair. Of course, family comes first. My words were pointed and Eric flinched. Dinner carried on, awkward but civil, until the cake arrived. His father gave a short toast about family values, about loyalty and legacy, and I almost laughed at the irony. When he finished, I rose to my feet, glass in hand. "I'd like to say a few words, too," I began. The room hushed. Eric's eyes widened, his knuckles white against the table. "I want to thank everyone here for welcoming me into this family for the past 11 years. You've watched me raise Lily. You've celebrated our milestones. You believed, like I did, that Eric and I were building something lasting." I paused, scanning the faces around the table. "But tonight, I can't sit here and pretend anymore." Murmurs rippled. Eric shifted in his chair. "Jennifer, don't—" I pulled the folder from my bag and laid it on the table. "This is a collection of receipts, bank statements, and screenshots showing exactly how Eric has been spending not only his salary, but my inheritance. The money my mother left me. He used it to wine and dine another woman. And just last week, I caught him buying her a diamond engagement ring." Gasps erupted. His mother covered her mouth, eyes wide. His father slammed a fist on the table. Eric stood abruptly, voice rising. "This isn't the time or the place." "Oh, it's exactly the place," I shot back. "Because for years you've let everyone think you're the perfect husband, the successful provider, the loyal son. But here's the truth, laid bare for everyone you care about." I slid one of the receipts across the table toward his father. "Here, dinner for two at Gibson's. $320. Not with me. Not with Lily. With her." Another paper. "Hotel charges on weekends you claim to be traveling for work." And then finally, the printout of the jewelry receipt. "And here's the crown jewel. A $4,000 ring for his mistress, bought with the money my mother sacrificed her whole life to save." Silence crashed over the room, heavy and suffocating. Eric's mother whispered, "Eric, tell me this isn't true." He opened his mouth, but no words came. I leaned forward, my voice cold, deliberate. "You didn't just betray me. You betrayed your daughter. You betrayed every single person who thought they could trust you." His father stood, face red with rage. "Get out," he barked at Eric. "You've embarrassed this family for the last time." The humiliation was complete. Eric's shoulders slumped, his carefully crafted mask shattered. I straightened, sliding the folder back into my bag. I don't need to say anything else. The truth speaks for itself. As I walked toward the door, I delivered one final line, loud enough for everyone to hear. "When a man uses his wife's inheritance to fund another woman's lifestyle, he doesn't just lose his marriage, he loses his dignity, and you'll never get either back." The room erupted. Some people whispered, others shook their heads. His mother sobbed quietly, while his father refused to look at him. And Eric? He just stood there, pale and broken, while I took Lily's hand and walked out into the night. Behind me, I heard someone mutter, "She deserves better." And for the first time in months, I believed it. If Eric thought his humiliation at his mother's birthday dinner would be the end of it, he underestimated me, and the internet. Within 48 hours, whispers of the confrontation had spread beyond family circles. Someone's cousin posted on Facebook, then screenshots made their way to Instagram and Twitter. By the end of the week, Eric's name wasn't trending citywide, but he was definitely making the rounds in Chicago gossip threads. That's when he tried to fight back. Late one night, Hannah called me, laughter bubbling in her voice. "Turn on Channel 7. You're going to want to see this." I grabbed the remote and flipped it on. There he was, my husband, no, my ex in everything but paperwork, sitting stiff in a suit on a local news segment. The chyron under his name read, "Business professional speaks out amid marital turmoil." I nearly choked. The reporter leaned in. "Eric, there's been a lot of chatter online about your marriage. What's the truth here?" He sighed, voice dripping with rehearsed pain. "Look, my wife is a good woman, but she's been struggling. She's paranoid. She took a couple of innocent dinners with a colleague and twisted them into an affair. I love my family. I'd never betray them." I clenched the remote until my knuckles turned white. Innocent dinners? A colleague? He made me sound like a jealous lunatic. "And the jewelry store incident?" the reporter pressed. Eric forced a chuckle. "A misunderstanding. I was buying a gift for her. She saw something out of context and reacted emotionally." My stomach twisted. The audacity. Hannah's voice came through the phone, gleeful. "He's digging his own grave. You ready to bury him?" I was. The next morning, I uploaded the folder I'd been building to a private drive. Screenshots of text messages, bank statements showing thousands spent at hotels, the jewelry receipt with the store's official stamp. I sent the link to a friend of mine who ran a mid-sized blog about local scandals, a blog people loved for its blunt honesty. By lunchtime, the post was live. "Chicago husband caught funding mistress with wife's inheritance. Receipts don't lie." Within hours, it spread. Screenshots of his texts. "I can't wait to spend the weekend with you," and "Don't worry, she won't know," circulated on Twitter. The hotel charges lined up with the dates he told me he was on business trips. And the jewel in the crown, the ring receipt, stamped and signed. Hashtags started trending in Chicago's Twitter feed. "Receipts don't lie" and "inheritance ring." The comments were brutal. "Imagine going on TV to lie when the proof is right here. This dude's not just a cheater, he's a broke cheater using his wife's dead mom's money. She deserves every penny in the divorce." By evening, the news stations that had given him sympathy were forced to backpedal. Channel 7's anchor even opened the segment with, "Yesterday, Eric Morris claimed his wife fabricated an affair. Today, receipts tell a different story." The fallout didn't stop there. His LinkedIn page, once full of endorsements, turned into a battlefield. Colleagues quietly distanced themselves, removing recommendations. A competitor commented under one of his posts, "Trust is everything in business. Hard to sell integrity when you can't live it." The mistress tried to defend herself with a long Instagram caption about love being complicated, but within minutes, commenters flooded it with screenshots of the ring receipt. Someone even zoomed in on her hand from old photos, pointing out the same ring glinting under restaurant lighting. She deleted her account by the next morning. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet. I didn't need to argue. The truth was loud enough. But Eric wasn't done. Desperate, he went live on Facebook a few nights later. I watched from my phone, curled on the couch, Lily asleep upstairs. He sat in his dimly lit apartment, hair unkempt, eyes wild. "You don't know the full story," he ranted. "She's turning everyone against me. She's using my daughter as a pawn. You think I'm the bad guy? You don't know what I've put up with." The comments scrolled faster than he could read them. "Dude, stop embarrassing yourself. The receipts are everywhere, just admit it. She's not using your daughter. You did that when you cheated." The live cut off after 20 minutes, but by then, screen recordings were already circulating. Someone clipped the moment he shouted, "I'm not a villain," and paired it with dramatic music. It went viral overnight. By the end of the week, Eric wasn't just a failed husband. He was a meme. At work, HR called him in. I knew because one of his coworkers texted Hannah, "He's suspended pending review. They can't afford the bad press." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. That night, I tucked Lily into bed, brushing her hair back from her forehead. She looked up at me sleepily. "Mommy, why is Daddy on people's phones?" I kissed her cheek. "Because sometimes when people lie, the truth finds them anyway. As I turned out the light, I realized something. I didn't even have to swing the axe. All I'd done was hand people the rope, and Eric hung himself with it. The court hearings were brutal for Eric, but I walked into each one with my head high and a folder thick with evidence. My lawyer didn't flinch, didn't sugarcoat, and didn't let him squirm out of a single accusation. The first session started with finances. She presented a timeline of every dollar spent on the mistress: hotels, dinners, jewelry. "Your Honor," she said, sliding the receipts across the table. "This wasn't marital spending. This was theft. He drained funds left to my client by her late mother. That inheritance was not his to use." Eric tried to argue, voice tight with desperation. "It was our joint money. She put it into our accounts. That made it shared." The judge raised an eyebrow. "And you thought shared meant funding another woman's lifestyle?" He stammered, eyes darting. But no answer came. The gavel came down on the accounts, frozen, then divided. I walked away with the house, the savings, and control of Lily's future. He walked away with nothing but debt. Next came custody. Eric tried to paint himself as the devoted father. "I love my daughter. She needs both of us." My lawyer didn't hesitate. He brought his mistress around their 6-year-old and told her not to tell her mother. That's not parenting. That's manipulation. I provided Lily's quiet testimony, her simple words written down. "Daddy told me not to say he was with the lady." That was all it took. The judge's decision was swift. Primary custody to me, supervised visits for him. His face fell like he'd been sucker punched. Then came the family fallout. His father testified, voice gravelly with disappointment. I trusted Eric with the family name, with the business relationships tied to his work. He disgraced all of us. He turned toward his son, eyes cold. "You're not welcome at my house anymore." His brother followed, speaking through clenched teeth. "You dragged us into this mess. Do you know how many calls I've gotten since your little TV stunt? Clients asking if I'm the cheating Morris? You're poison, Eric. Don't contact me again." Even his mother, who had once coddled him through every failure, sat in the back of the courtroom with tears streaming down her face, unable to look at him. And the mistress? She didn't show. Word got around that she'd packed her things and vanished the moment Eric's card stopped working. Friends whispered that she'd moved back in with her parents, embarrassed and broke. The ring she once flaunted on Instagram ended up at a pawn shop on Clark Street. By the third hearing, Eric's lawyer looked exhausted, flipping papers he knew couldn't save his client. Every attempt to spin the story collapsed under the weight of evidence. The judge finalized it all in one short ruling: the house, custody, and majority of assets awarded to me. Eric was left with his car, a few personal belongings, and mounting legal bills. After court, he tried to corner me in the hallway, his face pale, his tie hanging loose. "Jennifer, please, we can work something out. Don't leave me with nothing." I stared at him, steady and calm. "You did this to yourself. You had everything and you chose to throw it away. Now you'll live with the consequences." He opened his mouth to argue, but security stepped between us. He didn't push. He just slumped against the wall, a shell of the man who once strutted into rooms like he owned them. By the time I walked out into the crisp Chicago air, it was official. Eric Morris was legally dismantled, financially gutted, and cut off from the very family that once lifted him up. And for the first time in 11 years, I felt free. It was a gray afternoon when I finally agreed to see him. Not because I wanted closure, I already had that, but because I wanted to look him in the eye one last time and remind him of what he'd thrown away. We met at a small cafe on the edge of downtown. Neutral ground. Public, so he couldn't turn it into a scene. I walked in, shoulders squared, and spotted him immediately at a corner table. He looked nothing like the man I once married. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes sunken, his hair unkempt. The confidence he'd carried like a second skin was gone. What sat in front of me was a hollowed-out version, all edges and nerves. Jennifer. he said softly as I slid into the seat across from him. I didn't respond. I let the silence weigh on him until he shifted uncomfortably. He cleared his throat. I know I've made mistakes. His voice cracked. I lost sight of what mattered. I don't know. I thought I needed more. But all I needed was you. And Lily. I kept my face neutral. You needed more? You mean the woman you paraded in front of our daughter? The one you bought a ring for with my mother's money? His jaw clenched. He tried again. It was a mistake. She's gone. I ended it. I was stupid. Reckless. Please, Jen, I'm begging you. Don't let 11 years go down the drain. I leaned back, studying him. 11 years didn't go down the drain. You threw them away. Piece by piece. Late nights, lies, secrets, stolen money. That wasn't an accident. That was a choice. He winced as if the words were blows. I can change. I'll prove it to you. I'll go to therapy. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't shut the door completely. I let out a bitter laugh. You want therapy? You want redemption? That's fine, but you'll do it alone. I'm not your lifeline anymore. I'm not the woman who holds you together while you tear me apart. His hands trembled against the table. Jennifer, please. I don't have anyone left. My family won't speak to me. Work suspended me indefinitely. Everyone online. They're calling me a joke. You're the only person who can help me get back on my feet. There it was. Not love, not regret. Survival. You don't miss me, I said coldly. You miss the version of me that carried you. You miss the stability, the respect, the money, the home. You don't want me. You want the life I built while you sabotaged it. He looked away, shame coloring his cheeks. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The cafe buzzed with life around us, the clinking of mugs, the hiss of the espresso machine. But at our table, it felt like everything had narrowed to two people and a chasm that couldn't be crossed. Finally, he whispered, So that's it? After everything we've been through, this is how it ends. I stood, pulling my coat tight around me. No, Eric, this isn't how it ends. This is how it should have ended years ago. He scrambled to his feet, desperation spilling from him. Jennifer, please. Just give me one more chance. I turned, meeting his eyes with the full weight of my resolve. You're the architect of your own destruction, and I'm done cleaning up the ruins. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. He just stood there, broken, as I walked past him toward the door. Outside, the air was cold but sharp with freedom. For the first time in over a decade, I didn't feel the weight of his shadow. I felt only my own steps, my own strength. I didn't look back. 6 months later, my life barely resembled what it had been. The house in Lincoln Park was now truly mine. I repainted the walls, stripped away every trace of Eric, and filled the rooms with warmth Lily and I created together. The laughter of my daughter echoed through halls that once felt heavy with silence. Every corner breathed lighter now, freer. I had gone back to work full-time. The marketing firm where I once scraped together part-time hours now had me running my own campaigns. My boss told me I'd surprised him, not because he doubted me, but because he said I'd tapped into a confidence he'd never seen before. Clients requested me by name. For the first time in years, I wasn't just managing. I was excelling. And Lily, she was blooming. At 6, she had a resilience that humbled me. The supervised visits with Eric had been sparse. More often than not, he canceled, too embarrassed or too broke to show up. At first, I worried it would crush her. But children sense truth faster than adults do. She stopped asking when he'd come. Instead, she started drawing pictures of just us, mother and daughter, hand in hand, smiling. I found one taped to her bedroom wall last week. 2 stick figures standing under a bright sun. Just us. No shadows behind us. Meanwhile, Eric had become a ghost. Word trickled back through Hannah or the occasional mutual acquaintance. He'd lost his job permanently after the scandal wouldn't die down. His father cut him out of any family ventures. His brother blocked his number. His mother stopped defending him when the gossip resurfaced. The mistress had long vanished, leaving him with nothing but the echo of his own decisions. Someone told me they'd seen him working behind the counter at a dingy car rental agency near O'Hare. Another said they spotted him at a bar at noon on a Tuesday, drinking alone. I didn't seek confirmation. I didn't need to. The image fit too perfectly. And the truth? I didn't hate him anymore. Hate requires energy, attention. What I felt now was colder, sharper. Nothing. He was irrelevant. A chapter closed. On Saturday mornings, Lily and I started a new tradition. We'd walk down to the farmer's market, buy fresh flowers and a pastry, then stop by the little park nearby. I'd watch her run through the grass, her laughter carrying on the breeze, and I'd realize how light I felt. Freedom isn't just the absence of chains. It's the rediscovery of who you are without them. Sometimes at night, when the house was quiet, I thought of my mother. I wondered what she'd say if she could see us now. I imagined her proud smile, her hand on my shoulder, her voice reminding me that strength isn't about holding everything together for someone else. It's about knowing when to let go. That inheritance she left me, the one Eric tried to squander, hadn't been wasted after all. It bought me the house, yes, but more importantly, it bought me perspective. It gave me the fire to fight for myself, to fight for Lily, to rebuild. One evening, as I tucked Lily into bed, she whispered, "Mommy, we're happy now, aren't we?" I kissed her forehead. "Yes, baby, we are." And I meant it. Eric's name still floated occasionally in whispers or memes online, but it didn't sting anymore. If anything, it reminded me of how far I'd come. He was a cautionary tale. I was the survivor. The day I walked into Riviera Jewelers and caught him trying to build a new life with someone else should have broken me. Instead, it became the day I found myself. Betrayal has a way of stripping you bare, showing you the truth of people and the truth of yourself. And in that rawness, you either shatter or you rise. I chose to rise. Thank you so much for watching and staying with me through this story. If it hit you, if it stirred something inside, don't just leave quietly. Click that hype button and let me know in the comments what part spoke to you the most. Share your own thoughts or even your experiences, because you never know who needs to read them. And if you want more stories like this, make sure you hit subscribe and tap that like button. It really helps this channel grow. I'll be back with another powerful story soon, so stay tuned.